Have you noticed how the internet turned it into a talent show for fake brilliance? You open your phone and it's the same parade every time. Clean background, classy font, a quote from some philosopher who's been dead for 200 years, and suddenly, congratulations, another genius was born for 5 seconds. Here's the part no one likes to admit. The world isn't getting dumber. It's getting better at repeating things. We are living in the age of intellectual cosplay. Knowledge became an accessory, like expensive sneakers, a luxury watch, or a tattoo with a deep meaning nobody can really explain. It's not something you use to think better. It's something you wear to look interesting. Social media became the runway for this whole performance. Scroll your feed and it's a non-stop rain of detached quotes. A little Nietzsche here, a recycled Einstein line there, a half-digested Freud somewhere in between. Everything looks profound until you realize a lot of the people posting this stuff freeze when life asks them to make a simple decision. Someone can repost, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger," and still panic when ordering coffee without their usual syrup. Everyone knows this character. Let's call him Mark, the pocket intellectual. Mark learned a handful of quotes, watched a few summary videos, skimmed a difficult book or two, and now he drops lines like business cards. In the middle of a normal conversation, like deciding where to eat, he throws a complex concept just to feel important. People go quiet for a second. Someone thinks, "Wow, this guy sounds smart." But there is this strange emptiness in the room. And before you point fingers, I've been that guy. I loved dropping dramatic quotes to sound deep, mysterious, and maybe even attractively tortured. I felt smart until someone pushed a little. They asked a basic question. "Okay, but why did that philosopher think that way? What was the argument behind it?" I froze. I dodged. I changed the subject. Because I didn't really know. I had memorized the punchline, not the reasoning. I hadn't gone through the boring chapters, the footnotes, the historical context, the contradictions. I consumed the summary of the summary of the summary. That's where this kind of fast knowledge becomes dangerous. It gives you the feeling of intelligence without asking for real effort. Your brain turns into a human flash drive. It stores information, but it doesn't process much. You don't become someone who thinks better. You become someone who repeats better. Thinking well isn't about collecting pretty sentences. Any search engine can do that faster than you. Real thinking starts when you deal with what you don't fully understand. It means being willing to challenge an idea, poke holes in it, question it, doubt it. Not using a famous dead person sentence as crutch to protect your own stubborn opinions. Quoting is easy, thinking takes work. So if you want your first step out of the zoo of well-trained parrots, keep it simple. Collect fewer ready-made quotes and more uncomfortable questions. Stop trying so hard to look smart. Start trying to understand things for real. No one hands out trophies for the best mimic in the room. Also, stop hunting for people who already agree with you. That's not learning, that's self-soothing. Most people don't go online to discover new ideas. They go online to leave feeling justified. The internet became that friend who always says, "Yeah, you are totally right." And your brain loves that. It doesn't want effort, it wants comfort. There's a kind of effort that hurts more than any hard homework, accepting the possibility that you might be wrong. So what did we do with the biggest library humanity ever built? We turned it into an echo chamber, a room full of mirrors. You say something and it comes back to you with a different profile picture and a different username. It feels like the whole world agrees. when in reality you just train the algorithm to feed you what you like. That habit has a name: confirmation bias. It's not some personal flaw unique to you. It's the default setting of human behavior. We don't naturally chase truth. We chase reassurance. Think about the guy from earlier. Now upgraded into Mark with strong opinions. Mark feels very confident about a complex topic he barely understands. Politics, health, money, education. Pick one. And here's the giveaway. He never searches for balanced perspectives. He doesn't type arguments for and against. He types why my view is right, or proof the other side is wrong, or experts destroy opposing argument. Because searching both sides takes effort, it introduces risk. What if the other side actually makes a decent point? That ruins the comfort, and the search engine plays along. It doesn't give you what it challenges you. It gives you what you asked for. You get a buffet of articles, videos, threads, and hot takes repeating the same conclusion back to you. Warm certainty, inflated confidence. But that's not sharper thinking. That's a swollen ego. You didn't become more precise. You become more convinced. And conviction often blocks curiosity. Real thinking shows up when there's friction, when something irritates you, when a sentence makes you tense up, and then the hard internal question appears. Maybe the problem isn't them. I will give you a personal example. There was a commentator I absolutely couldn't stand. Everything about him irritated me. His voice, his tone, his arguments. In my mind, he represented everything that was wrong. I spent months inside a comfortable bubble, surrounded by people who agreed with my dislike. One day, out of boredom, I picked up something he had written and forced myself to read it. Seriously. It was painful. I wanted to quit every few pages. I was annoyed the whole time. But buried inside the mess, there was one argument I couldn't easily knock down. One idea that actually made sense inside his framework. I didn't walk away agreeing with him. I still didn't like the guy, but I walked away less ignorant. To challenge that point properly, I had to stop reacting emotionally and start thinking carefully. I had to strengthen my own reasoning instead of repeating slogans. That's the shift. If you want to stop being a confident repeater and start becoming a real thinker, move toward discomfort. Read the article you hate. Watch the video that annoys you. Not to convert yourself, but to understand what you are trying to argue against. If you only consume what makes you feel good, you are not thinking. You are feeding your ego, and a well-fed ego kills curiosity fast. The biggest enemy of good thinking isn't lack of education. It's not people who didn't grow up around books or universities. The real danger is the performative intellectual, the person who turns every conversation into a personal TED Talk. You know the type. Someone reads a couple of heavy books, or parts of them, and suddenly unlocks a new identity, advanced thinker. They start using fancy words at the grocery store. They don't watch movies anymore. They analyze symbolic power structures. Conversations turn into lectures. In their head, there is an invisible stage. From up there, they look down at everyone else with quiet superiority. And here's the trap. Learning stops the moment someone decides they are already smart. Ignorance isn't the main problem. The bigger problem is thinking you've already figured things out. Once that happens, the mind closes the door. Why listen to anything new if you already feel stocked with answers? I lived this firsthand. When I started reading more serious philosophy, my ego inflated fast. I felt like I had cracked secret codes about reality that only a tiny group of dead Europeans seemed to understand. I became unbearable. I didn't listen. I waited for my turn to speak so I could deliver my little speech. Every conversation became a performance. And when you are in performance mode, something shifts internally. You are no longer exploring ideas, you are defending them. The goal stops being learning and becomes protecting your image in front of an imaginary audience. That's where thinking collapses, because real thinking requires something the stage personality can afford: vulnerability. The ability to say, in the middle of a conversation, two terrifying sentences. The first is, "I don't know," and the second one is, "You are right, I was wrong." Try saying that at a family dinner and watch what happens. Socrates became famous not because he had all the answers, but because he openly admitted how little he knew. While the intellectual celebrities of his time sold techniques for winning arguments, he walked around asking simple questions until people realized their certainty wasn't as solid as they thought. The difference wasn't knowledge, it was awareness of limits. If you want to think better, step off the stage. Accept that a large part of your beliefs probably came from your environment. Family, social circles, algorithms, favorite creators. Intellectual humility isn't a personality trait, it's a survival tool. It keeps the mind flexible, curious, alive. The day you look in the mirror and think, "I'm genuinely smart now," that's usually the moment growth starts slowing down. The best thinkers aren't the ones with the most answers. They are the ones asking sharper questions. Your brain isn't as rational as you think. You like to see yourself as a logical creature. You wake up, make coffee, glance at your to-do list, and feel ready to make reasonable adult decisions. In your mind, you are steering the ship, but you are not. If the mind were a vehicle, you wouldn't be in the driver's seat. You would be in the back seat, slightly confused, offering suggestions while a nervous animal handles the wheel. A creature wired for survival, comfort, pleasure, and avoidance of threat. That system has been running the show for millions of years. We love praising the rational part of the brain, the part that writes emails, debates ideas, builds spreadsheets, and occasionally produces bad poetry. But that layer works more like an overworked assistant trying to manage chaos it didn't create. The older emotional system holds the real power, and the rational mind's job isn't to decide, it's to explain after the fact. It cleans up the mess and invents a convincing story about why the decision made sense. Don't buy it? Think about our familiar character again. He knows perfectly well that texting an ex at 2 a.m. is a terrible idea. He knows it leads nowhere good. He knows he will regret it. Then loneliness kicks in, boredom, anxiety. The emotional system takes the wheel. Message sent. The next morning, when the rational part wakes up and sees the damage, it doesn't say, "I lost control emotionally." It builds a narrative. "I was just checking in. I was being polite. It was concern." A clean story, logically packaged, and completely dishonest. This pattern shows up everywhere. Picking fights because your pride got poked. Buying things you don't need for a quick dopamine hit. Avoiding important work by hiding in distraction. Every time, there is a neat explanation ready to go. That's why most people misunderstand what critical thinking really means. They think it's about dissecting other people's arguments. The real battlefield is internal. Thinking well means learning to challenge your own first reaction, feeling suspicious of conclusions that feel too comfortable, too emotionally satisfying, too fast. Because when an idea brings instant relief, it often came from impulse, not analysis. Before doubting politicians, influencers, or relatives in group chats, Start by doubting yourself. Your mind is a talented storyteller. Truth is not always its priority. Comfort often is. Once you've lowered your ego, questioned your impulses, and test your ideas in everyday situations, a dangerous feeling can sneak in. Okay, now I figured things out. You sink into the couch, coffee bought on a credit card you shouldn't be using, and suddenly the world feels decoded. You've got theories for everything, sharp explanations for economic chaos, strong opinions about why modern relationships fall apart, ready-made solutions for politics, education, health, productivity, anything that doesn't require you to leave the couch. This is the classic armchair revolutionary, someone who consumes endless books, podcasts, debates, and documentaries, and becomes an expert on everything as long as it stays theoretical. They can dismantle complex systems at a bar, yet can't manage their own finances. They complain about bosses and systems but never negotiate a raise or apply for a better job. They talk about community while barely knowing the neighbor's name, brilliant in abstraction, weak in execution. And yes, I've been that person too. There was a phase when I dove into stoicism like I'd found the hidden instruction manual for life. I read the classics, highlighted passages, convinced myself I had achieved emotional mastery. In my head, I was unshakable. It worked beautifully inside my bedroom. Then real life showed up. A crowded grocery store in a weekend morning, no parking spots. Shopping cart with a broken wheel, painfully slow line. Someone ahead paying with loose change. Within minutes, all my inner calm evaporated. I was irritated, impatient, muttering complaints under my breath. So much for the enlightened philosopher. Moment exposed something uncomfortable. My philosophy looked good on paper but collapsed under mild pressure. It was decoration, not a tool, mental exercise that didn't survive contact with ordinary life. A lot of people confuse this with being intellectual, playing life on easy mode inside your own head, where everything makes sense and nothing pushes back. But ideas that only work in comfort zones aren't doing much for you. Want to know if your thinking holds any real value? Take it into daily life. Ideas aren't ornaments, they are tools. And tools prove themselves through use. A hammer doesn't belong on a wall. It belongs in your hand, doing real work. You think you understand healthy communication? Try using it in a tense conversation with family. Think you've mastered focus and discipline? Test that when your phone lights up while you are doing something boring but important. Believe you have emotional control? Watch how that holds up in traffic, long lines, delays, and frustration. If your ideas collapse when they meet your routine, they are not critical thinking. They are just elegant excuses for staying exactly where you are. Thinking feels safe. Acting is uncomfortable. So get off the couch. After all this, ego lowered, instincts questioned, ideas tested, a familiar temptation shows up. Now it's time to dominate online. Jump into family group chats. Destroy your relative's bad take at holiday dinner. Write the perfect comment that leaves everyone silent, impressed by your brilliance. If that crossed your mind, even briefly, the point slipped past you. We live in an era where disagreement became entertainment. Opinions turned into sport. Conversations turned into arenas. The goal isn't understanding, it's victory, public embarrassment, digital mic drops, and our recurring character evolves again. Now he's the keyboard gladiator. He spends hours scrolling comment sections not to learn anything, but to win. He doesn't read opposing arguments to understand them. He scans for weaknesses, a typo, misplaced word, a sloppy sentence, anything he can weaponize to dismiss the entire point. Victory achieved. Imaginary trophy unlocked. He believes intelligence means speed, quick replies, final words, clean knockouts. I used to love that feeling too. Winning an argument felt powerful, chest out, ego inflated. But when the noise faded, nothing had changed. Nobody learned anything. No minds shifted. All I had done was add more friction to the world. No bridges built, just more burned ground. Here's the uncomfortable realization. The purpose of thinking well isn't proving you are right. It's finding where you are wrong, not feeding the ego, trimming it back constantly. Real intellectual work doesn't happen in front of an audience. It happens privately, when you audit your own beliefs and look for cracks in your reasoning. It means being willing to stay quiet when you don't fully understand. It means listening without mentally preparing your counterattack. None of this looks impressive. Nobody applauds it. Some people even mistake it for weakness. While the keyboard gladiator ends the day exhausted, fingers sore, having won 10 pointless battles and remained exactly the same person, someone who practiced restraint may have discovered a flaw in their own thinking, a small mistaken belief they had been carrying unnoticed. That's the real reward. Going to sleep slightly less wrong than you were in the morning. A tiny correction today, another one tomorrow. It's not glamorous. It doesn't go viral. But it's the quiet path toward become a little less foolish over time. This video challenged you even a little. Take a second and hit like. It helps the channel more than you think. And if you want more conversations like this about thinking better, not just louder, please subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.